The first use is going to be chipping effects on armor. Probably not as good as sponge chipping, but pretty easy to use and the results are not bad. The second use is going to be working on anything wheels, especially tank road wheels. It can be very, very effective and easy, but definitely have a little bit of a learner's curve. As you can see, I can't paint in between the lines, apparently. Now these are aircraft wheels, and might be just as easy as using a paintbrush, just kind of depends, maybe in some respects harder. But the good thing is you don't have to do any cleanup with any brushes after you're done. In addition to chipping effects that you have for armor, you also have chipping effects for aircraft. Since it's got a pretty pointy nose, you can be pretty precise with getting into your chipping. Still, I would prefer other methods, but maybe if you want an easy way, if you're a beginner, then yeah, this is going to be an excellent tool for you. Now another use is going to be hard edge camo for aircraft or armor. Now with this, it makes it a little bit easier for beginners because with paintbrush, you have to worry about, what your paint consistency is all like. With this, you're going to be forced to be starting out with something thin, which helps out. You definitely will have to do in several layers, as you can see with this, to get the right coverage, but in the end, it works out pretty well. Not gonna throw away my airbrush, but not bad. As you can see, you're gonna want to make sure you do plenty of layers to get good coverage. Also, having a good primer as your base is going to help you a lot as well. One of the best uses is getting into graffiti. I've tried this with the airbrush before and it's been pretty challenging with the paintbrush as well. But with these pens, you can replicate it pretty easily. Got annoyed that you have to bring out all your paint and a paintbrush just to paint one little dot? Well, with this, makes it really easy for navigation lights or painting entire detail like your seatbelts here. Especially when you're working with some of the raised detail, these markers can come in very handy. Just kind of drag it along that raised edge and it'll highlight it. It's pretty nifty. Now for the first question, well, what makes these different from other markers, especially the ones that you get into the art shops? Well, that's where it kind of just depends. Especially if you get into some alcohol markers like some of these and Sharpie, you can get kind of this bleeding and effect where it can kind of mess up that hard edge line that you're trying to achieve. So can you have the best of both worlds? Can you use a sponge to kind of blend these in? No. So it dries too fast, so that's going to cause a little bit of a problem. So you can't just swipe over it, it's going to look ugly, as you can see. Now, if you want to come over it later with something that has a little bit of alcohol in it, then you can kind of get a little bit of that effect, but it's not anything to write home about, so I'm not really going to recommend. So are these water soluble? Absolutely. Now, what you may want to do with that, I don't know. I tried to play around with this to make it into maybe a little wash or something, but as you all are pretty much aware, acrylic washes are a little bit finicky. It would make a lot more sense using the watercolor pencils, the weathering pencils, for that kind of purpose. So it does, but I can't find any good use for water solubility at the moment. So then the next question usually would come, well, can I use water to clean them up? Well, that's the thing. They will dry in a couple seconds and they're pretty durable, so the only way that you could really clean them up is with alcohol, which you could do, but it's going to probably affect the underlying paint as well. So how is the coverage on these? Well, as I described earlier, they are a little bit thin, so you're probably going to need a couple of passes to be able to actually paint what you want, but it also depends on a couple other factors. Are you putting it over something that is primed? That's going to help. Is it a lighter color? Something like the aluminum lays down really well, so kind of just depends. So is it something where these are only going to work if you prime? No. So you could use it on bare plastic and it will adhere, it's good. The advantage of doing a primer on with certain colors is to just build up that opacity and build up that layer. On some of this stuff where you have the darker colors of the aluminum, lays down pretty dang well and there's not much of a need. But anything that's the lighter, like that wood base, it's going to help it quite a bit. So the claim that they have in the pamphlet talks about them being really resilient, and you can just go in and you can do weathering right on top of it, and 100%, yeah. Put in a couple of different enamel washes, put in some mineral spirits. Maybe if it went into something a little more aggressive, maybe you'd have a problem, but this worked. So the last question is, can you use these to touch up other paintwork? Well, the problem with running this test, I'd have to have all 35 or so of the colors, I have to have all of the exact matching real colors, and I'd have to have it maybe in the exact batch that you're going to be using and all that. So there's a lot of factors. As far as what I've been hearing already, it isn't an exact match for the other real colors when you get into the actual new jars or anything like that. So I have my doubts in using that for that particular purpose. But as far as using it for everything else that was explained in here, it works quite well.
Keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We